It's Friday. I'm going to talk about the total crypto market and Bitcoin. Then two different scenarios as to how this could potentially play out, sort of hypotheticals. And lastly, what am I doing? If that sounds good, hit the like button. I'd appreciate it. Hit subscribe. I'm Brian. I'm a big dumb animal. Don't do what I do. Informational purposes only. This is a chart of the total crypto market now at 2.9 trillion. It's a weekly chart, meaning each bar is a week. People are probably really excited because for the last 3 weeks, we've had nice green bars, meaning the market's been going up, particularly this week. But what is pushing this market up predominantly? And then what are the factors? Well, 64%. It's the highest it's ever been. I'm actually recording this Thursday night, so you'll see it on Friday, probably Friday morning. Highest it's ever been in this cycle, if you will. Last time it was up around 72%. Don't know if it'll get up that high. But the majority of this 2.89 trillion, the majority, 64% of it is just Bitcoin. And then there's everything else. What everyone talks about is the fact that we want to see Bitcoin dominance come down. Not necessarily the price of Bitcoin, although that could happen. It could go either way. But if the dominance, meaning it makes up less of the 2.89 trillion, that means other things are going up at a faster pace. And that's what we're looking for. Typically, it goes from Bitcoin to Ethereum and altcoins. So this hasn't gone down yet. It's still moving up. Pi cycle top indicator I like to watch. Long story short, if these two moving averages cross, within a couple days, at least in the past, Bitcoin dominance would then start to drop. Now, if we look at Bitcoin itself, what's going on here? This is a daily chart, and it's gone up significantly the last couple days. A nice run up over 90,000. And what I just turned off there, I'm going to turn back on, is the M2 money supply. People use it anywhere, I think, from 80-day lag to 110-day lag. This is on 108. So worst case scenario, so to speak, it starts really taking off around here, which is like May 3rd. In a week or two, or it's already correlated and it's really starting to move with M2. There are those out there that believe M2 going up is the only thing we really need to push markets. That may be the case, but there are other factors as well. If we look at whether or not we're in an altcoin season, this shows a 16 out of 100. It's on CoinMarketCap. There's 100 different, the top 100 crypto coins. Green means they're outperforming Bitcoin. Typically, you want 75 green and the other 25 to be red. And that's how you get into what's called an altcoin season. We only have 16 green. All right, so what is all this doing? And then we look again at Bitcoin dominance versus Ethereum versus others. Well, what all this is saying is essentially the market is predominantly still in that Bitcoin run phase. And if we're comparing it to last markets, it hasn't moved into money flowing into Ethereum and then money flowing into altcoins yet, if we believe that's the way it could go. Let's talk about those two different scenarios. One would be the same thing that happened before. And what would help propel that, when I say same thing that happened before, meaning Bitcoin dominance starts to drop because money's moving into Ethereum, meaning meaning Ethereum prices are going up, and then altcoins are going up as well at a faster rate than Bitcoin. So we see that Bitcoin dominance drop, and then we start to see many, many more of these turn green until we're in that altcoin season. That would be following past patterns, which it may or may not do. I posted this a while ago, really for myself, just to keep myself grounded, to remember that I believe there's 4 things I'm looking for. Only one of them has happened, and that's the M2 moving up, which we've seen has been going up substantially. And that happened a while ago. Again, this is on a lag. The other 3 things are, well, Fed cuts. We don't have QE, quantitative easing. All right, so that would help with liquidity. Tariff negotiations, well, that really put a damper on the markets in general, and crypto followed, and stock market, whatnot. They're not done, meaning it hasn't been discussed that we have agreements with all the various countries, most notably one, China. Once we have agreements, or we've announced those agreements, whatever they may be, market wants some certainty. It would be great to have those finished and announced. And then if Bitcoin dominance starts breaking down, well, we're going to look to potentially have that epic market move. That could be the first scenario. The second scenario, which I think is fairly interesting, because I started doing this back in December, and I put a video out on it. And that is, a lot of us are waiting for that epic market like the last bull run of 3 years ago, where things were 5xing, 10xing, 20, 25, 50, 100, substantial moves. That would be great. Let's call that scenario 1. We're sitting on our crypto. We're just waiting for these phases to play out. Everything moons and we sell at a high price. What if it takes a longer, slower period of time, because some of these things happen in 3 months, in another 3 months, in another 3 months, and they're slow moving, and maybe those 50x's and 25x's aren't really obtainable. But what could be happening, and this caught my eye with Arrow just recently, Aerodrome, DeFi exchange on Base Network, hit around 30 cents, and that was a daily chart. Yes, that was almost 2 weeks ago, around 30 cents. It's up around 60 cents. That's a 2x already. In a non-alt season moment. Now, my average, because I bought it a while ago, is around 90 cents. Some people might have it even much higher. It was December of last year at 220. But forget all that. What about just 90 cents? Would most of you watching this say to yourself, yeah, I think it can get to 90 cents. All right. Well, if you were a big institution and you were able to push the price down to 30 cents, and then you and your buddies all jumped in with $1 million or $2 million or $5 million or $10 million and bought at 30 cents, well, at 90 cents, I break even. In my mind, my little lizard brain is saying, ooh, I want to go from 90 cents to $9 so I can get that 10x. Or I want to go from 90 cents to $2.70 and I'll get a 3x. Not bad. Well, when they get to 90 cents, they're done. They just got a 3x in a non-alt season market. That would be fascinating to me, right? So you have to, and I did a video on 2 different things I want to point out. One, I said, hey, you should look at all of your crypto in a spreadsheet and constantly put in the lows. So when the market does start running, because I think it might still be choppy for a week or two until we got a lot of that M2 and maybe some of these tariff scenarios start being discussed and maybe people feel a little better about the Fed. Maybe they make a broad statement every now and then. I don't know. So the first thing is find these lows and put it in a spreadsheet. If it goes lower, put that in. Why? Because you have to understand what other people are getting. Because there's only so many people. If we were to peak up here at 2 something, only a handful of people are actually going to get this top. Some are going to miss it, and then when it starts riding down, maybe they'll get out. So you got to realize if someone has a significantly lower price than you, then they may be getting out. So if I believe that a lot of these institutions or hedge funds will be happy with a 10x, then I'm going to look at it and say, oh, worst case scenario, a 10x is only, 30 cents. It's only $3. Shoot, they're going to get a 10x. I'm only going to get a 3x, but I may need to get out. I'm going to be watching that in terms of volume and liquidity. Of course, we got to watch the overall market. You know, if things are still taking off, they're still taking off. But if things start to cool down, then I might want to use, and this is the second point, I did a video. So that was the first thing, was look at all of them. What are the lowest prices? Put in your price and then put in the lowest price someone else may have gotten. So you have a general idea of when other people may get out. Some of yours may align. You may have gotten one of the lowest prices. You may have a really high price. Be careful. The next thing I wanted to point out was, and this is a strategy, I've sold already 4 of my crypto and reinvested into other things because they had like a 4 to 5x already. And I did a video on 5x and 5x is 25x. Some of you might think, no, it's 10x. No. You put in $100, you get a 5x, that's $500. You move it into something else, you 5x that, that's $2,500. Okay, so that's a 5x and a 5x. Much different than putting in $100 and hoping for your 25x to make $2,500. Same outcome. $100, 25x, or $100, 5x, move the money and 5x that. Why do I point that out? Because if the scenario plays out where things are moving much slower, you might have a lot of these institutions or larger ones doing a lot of this buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell with just 2 and 3x's. But if you're turning your capital over multiple times, a 3x sounds terrible unless you move it into another 3x and then you move it into another 3x. Well, that's a 27x. 3 times 3 times 3. So keep that in the back of your mind. None of us know how this market's going to play out, but I would not want everyone to think, hey, I should just sit on this for my 25x or my 10x and then be caught on the downside of one of these when the market finally does turn. Now, what are we going to watch in terms of the future and whether or not the market's really turning? Well, of course, we're going to be watching like the 200-day on Bitcoin and things like that. But that's once we think the market really starts to move. But keep an eye and consider if you've got a group AI and it moves and DeFi hasn't moved, I'm going to be taking some 4 and 5Xs, to be completely honest, and I'm going to be moving it in other categories. I've already done that with 4. I did round 1 of my 4 or 5X. Now I'm hoping to do a round 2. That's if we end up with an upward moving market, but on a long, slow plane over a longer period of time. I've heard people now projecting into 2026 when most of us are thinking, no, we wanted a 3-month bull run. Well, I'm not sure that's going to happen if all of these stars don't align. All right. So I also said, what am I doing? Well, the first thing I'm doing is looking at doing smaller moves and taking smaller gains. The second thing is I'm not buying anything new right now. I know people are excited because the market started to move. We looked at total and the last 3 weeks have been green. This last one in particular was really nice. However, until I see more of a positive uptrend and it looks like it's really moving into alt season, I'm not moving into those alts because even though something like Arrow and Ondo and some of these others that are moving doesn't mean they can't look. That was a great move right up there and then it dropped. Great move and drop, great move and drop. We could have that again. It could be choppy. We have a school community, how-to courses, and discussions on crypto. That was it. Hope it's helpful. Hope we can all make generational wealth together with crypto. Thanks for watching.